Well, before too long, it was about a week later, other Indians arrived, not just Samoset, but Massasoit came with other warriors. Massasoit was of the Wampanoag tribe, but there was somebody who had attached himself, aside from Samoset, to Massasoit, and that was an Indian by the name of Tishquantum. Tishquantum had an incredibly interesting story. Tishquantum was the last remaining Indian of the Pawtuxets. He had taken a trip with the English some years before over to England, spent 10 years, learned to speak English flawlessly, had developed a taste for English food and English customs and all, and then got a ride back across the ocean to come back to the Pawtuxets. Later, however, he was shanghaied, sold into slavery over in the Spain area, was bought free by some monks there, traveled back to England, and made a trip again back to his Pawtuxet village in Plymouth. But when he arrived, he discovered that his village was gone. There was no one there. The places that he had learned to swim and play, the trees he'd climbed in, the forests he walked in were there. But his tribe was all gone, everyone dead. And heartbroken, he went and hiked the miles over to Massasoit and attached himself for a while to the Wampanoags, but later, in his sorrow, he just kind of moved off and lived by himself. But when he got word that there were a little band of settlers, English settlers, that were hard-pressed, he figured out a new reason for living, and he decided to come and visit with the Pilgrims. Tishquantum became a great friend to the Indians, teaching them all kinds of practical things. One of the things I'm certain that the young ladies would like to know about was they didn't have much food, and he taught them how to take their moccasins off and to walk in the mud of the creeks and to find eels with their toes and to trap the eels and to bring them up and fry them up and eat them. The eels were apparently good eating. He also taught the English settlers about beaver pelts, which were very sought after, became a mainstay of trade. The trade worked between corn that was traded to the Indians for beaver pelts, the beaver pelts sent back to England and Europe and used for making hats. You just weren't cool if you didn't have a beaver pelt hat when you're back in England, and so they got very good price for the beavers, and there were a lot of beavers still in the New England area at that time. By April 21st, you have the perhaps one of the great tests of the will, the indomitable will of the Pilgrim people. Captain Jones, of the Mayflower, has lost almost half his crew to the same sicknesses and diseases, and he had agreed to stay just to try to give them a little bit of a head start on their new home. But he went to the remaining 52 Pilgrims and he said, you know, things aren't going so well. I recommend that you come back to England in the Mayflower with me. And so it was, they had to make a decision. Were they going to stay on with the vision that Robinson had given them to plant a new civilization, to do new things, that they had felt God was calling them to this great adventure, or were they going to give up after half of them died almost and go back to England? And so it was that the Jones and the sailors with him departed in the longboat for the Mayflower. They heard the sound of the old anchor cable being wound in and the bosun giving the commands, the yardarm swinging into place, the bowsprit pointing out to sea, the sails filling and being trimmed, and the Mayflower, first large and then small, disappears over the horizon as a speck. And nothing but the gray sky and the wind blowing through the pine trees behind them. And there are 52 brave pilgrims with still this dream that God's put in their heart to build something unlike anything they'd ever seen before, something based on ideas that they took from the Bible.